Welcome, everybody. Just seeing, they're just changing some things around in here, so I'm looking for the place to post links, and I think it's now in the chat. All right, well, we like to start on time, so thank you so much for joining us. Hello, welcome. My name is Lisa Snyder. I am the co-founder and Chief Innovation Officer of Tokeativity. Welcome to our Tokeativity Clubhouse. Today, we'll be talking about women in weed, about the power of the flower, and we have all aspects of plant touching, from plant touching to ancillary here with us today. Our previous topic was centering growing specifically, but we widened that a lot of bit today with an umbrella of focusing on women in weed and the power of the flower. So the cannabis industry is going to be our main focus, and a lot of the things that we care about and love in regards to cannabis, it all comes from the flower. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about the power of the flower. So if you are new to Tokeativity, Tokeativity is a membership-based global community founded in 2016 where cannabis-loving women connect, create, and evolve their personal and professional lives online and in person. We're consumers and business owners who connect through monthly digital events that provide networking, education, and inspiration. We host regional and state-based tours that connect the local community and amplify the local canna culture. We have a membership tier, multiple membership tiers for consumers, influencers, small businesses, and corporations, as well as many other ways that you can get involved in the cannabis feminist movement, which is so exciting. Tokeativity Creative, we've soft launched. It's our agency collective that works to amplify equitable brands in the cannabis space through experiential marketing, content creation, influencer networking, as well as global tours. Since this is new, I'm going to be talking about this a lot more out there in the world. And so I want to share with you a little bit more about what Tokeativity Creative is doing, and then we'll get into our conversation today. So we offer design, engagement strategies, and services that work in tandem with our community to give cannabis businesses a full spectrum marketing experience unlike any other agency, which is really exciting. We do dope content creation, graphics and social media, formatted videos, creative campaigns, and I'm excited to share with you that we are getting into the NFT space. You've probably heard that language around the internet, and I'm really excited to share with you what we're working on very, very soon. So we just won one of the best marketing companies at the Global Marketing 2.0 conference in Vegas, literally last week, for Tokeativity Creative. So if you are interested in working with us, we would love to know what you're working on, what your business is, what you're trying to amplify. Get in touch with us on our website, tokeativity.com, and let us know what you're up to. I just want to shout out our brand partners. Two new ones came on this past week, Thrice, Sacred Garden, as well as Kindleaf Pendleton and Scentsy Magazine. Thank you so, so much for your support and dedication to the liberation of women through cannabis. If you want to support our events or future events, you can actually head over to our website, look for the event you want to sponsor, click on register, and there's a whole set of different ways you can sponsor on the actual event pages. Or if you're looking to make a larger impact, you can contact us directly and we'll work with you to amplify your brand. So we have a ton of upcoming events. The next one is our Flower Power Tokeativity Social, which is next Wednesday on actual 420, which we're so excited about. It is online and it's from 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. And you know what's really cool is that this has been an incredible way for our global community and those who are in emerging markets to connect with one another. Everything from like you love smoking weed to like you have a weed business and you're looking to find your people. We are that place. So at this upcoming event, we've got speed networking, which is happening at the very beginning of the event, brought to you by women employed in cannabis. We're also going to be hosting a Cannapreneur Lounge and Business Open Mic, which is hosted by Brittany Parker. We are on the main stage. I'm going to be the MC, and we are going to be talking about how to start a dispensary, a Black woman's perspective. This is with Nicole Kennedy. She's the co-founder of Green Muse, which is based in Portland, Oregon. as well as running a social enterprise with Joy Hudson. She's the co-founder of Nimble Distribution, also based here in Portland, Oregon. So excited to have them as my guests for the main stage. And that should be really, really beautiful conversation and learning experience from both of these really powerful, amazing women. We are also hosting a Bridges conversation about which centers courageous conversations about race, equity, and inclusion, which is hosted by Tiffany Watkins and Miss Kindness. And we are hosting How to Become a Cannabis Social Media Influencer with the Mommy Jane. So if you are on our newsletter, today you might have seen a very special opportunity about this program that we're launching on 420. We've been working for an entire year and a half. It is over 70 pages 70 videos and 85 pages of hard knocks about how to navigate in the social media space. And if you're a brand or a social media influencer that's looking to next level your social media presence and become more trusted, this program is definitely for you. So our entire lineup can be found on our website. You can go and check it out. It is free to attend. And of course, there's other ways if you want to support some of the nonprofits that we align with as well. They are there for you to support. All right, so let's get to it. I am recording this today, so that is important for you to know as you are speaking. And we do have a really amazing array of women who I have curated from the community, lots of friends and colleagues, and they are from all aspects of the plant, from plant touching to ancillary, filmmakers, CBD companies, dispensary owners, bud tenders, etc. So I'm really excited to have this conversation today. I'm going to be going around and instead of doing introductions, we're going to be a little bit more focused on a Q&A style. So I did come up with some questions for some of my guests today, and I would love to direct them at you one by one. And we are going to start with Wendy Borman. Hi, Wendy.
Hello there.
Hello.
I'm really excited to be here, and I just want to also say congratulations. This is like a huge feat, everything that you've been launching. So way to
Oh
go,
my gosh.
Tokeativity. Walking the walk. I love it.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, we've been working so hard over the last 5.5 years. We care so much about you all, and we love you all so much. And we have also been really strategizing. Okay, how do we support the women in the industry and also the women consumers, and have like a really beautiful community that comes together under one cannabis loving roof? And then also, how do we align with equitable brands? And we actually have a womanifesto on our website. I see somebody on there right now. And I recommend, if you're curious about what we're doing, what we believe in, what we care about, please check that out. It's on our website and it's at the top, called Womanifesto. So thanks for the love, Wendy and everybody. My question to you is, so you're the director and producer of Mary Jane's The Women in Weed film, which is so cool to have you here with us. That came out in 2017, and obviously a lot has changed over the last 5 years, and cannabis moves very, very fast. And so my question to you is, like, from a filmmaker's perspective, as well as like a woman in the industry, what are some of the biggest challenges that you have noticed in the industry and in the cannabis space since the film has come out? Like at that time, for those of you who have seen it and those of you who haven't seen it, reminder is that this was like the emerging time of like, oh my God, women in cannabis, and there's so many women in the industry, and we've sort of seen that change a little bit. So I would love to hear your perspective about the changes since the film came out.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I mean, the thing that initially intrigued me about even doing a documentary about women in cannabis, because I have done films about other things, but what attracted me to cannabis was that statistic that they were touting back in 2015 about how 36% of senior leadership in the cannabis industry was women. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, this might be the industry where we actually achieve parity. Wouldn't that be amazing? And so that really caught my attention. And so I interviewed, 40 women from all across the United States and put them in this film. And you're right, it came out on the film festival circuit in 2017. And already by then, we'd saw a dip in the leadership of women in cannabis. And I don't know if we're ever going to get back to that place. And I think that's the biggest change. And unfortunately, I wanted it to be different in cannabis. But when we look at other industries that we've seen emerge in the last couple centuries, we had when film was first developed, we had equal numbers of women and men directing film. Well, as soon as they figured out that they could make a bunch of money at it, they pushed all the women out and consolidated it under the studio system. We saw the same thing in technology. Women actually wrote the code that all of our computers use nowadays, and yet we have what? Less than 20% of women are involved in computers and technology and things like that. And I think cannabis is headed that direction. We don't have any official numbers because not all cannabis businesses are out of the shadows and, in the marketplace where we can track that stuff. That said, I still think it's a really valid goal to try to have gender equity in the cannabis industry. And when you're talking about gender equity, as you say in the Manifesto, feminism has to be intersectional. And so we need to talk about what women are involved in the cannabis industry. And we need to look at the intersections of gender with race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and everything. So we get that really diverse perspective and point of view. And we know that diverse companies are more successful, right? Because if everybody thinks the same, you're not going to see the obstacles heading your direction, right? But if you have multiple perspective and your company is actually more successful. And I think cannabis as an industry, if they adopt that model or that mindset of diversity is a strength, let's all succeed, that rising tide raises all boats sort of mindset. I am still really inspired by that message. And I think it's possible. And conversations like this, one, that's one of the best things I think Tokeativity does is you create space for women to communicate and listen and learn from each other. And I think it's beautiful, and that's how we're going to start solving some of these bigger problems.
I really appreciate that perspective, and I know that the numbers are dwindling somewhat, disappointing on some level because it's definitely like a different energy than it was a couple of years ago. However, there's all these new states coming online and there's a lot of excitement and there's a lot of like new wave of this energy at different points. So it's been really interesting for us to be like community organizers and to hear from different perspectives of what's going on the ground, which I'm excited to talk to a few women who are in different places around the country today. But yeah, one of the biggest challenges we have when we're talking about women in weed is how do we keep women in the cannabis space? There's like a lot of excitement in the very beginning, and then there's all this stuff that kind of happens in the middle. And I agree with you, rising tide lifts all boats. But in general, I don't think the like profit focused male-owned companies really care that much, and we want them to care more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the question mark has been, how do we do that? And I think it's an ongoing conversation because I know that there's so many amazing women here in the cannabis industry that are doing a lot, probably more than they even want to sometimes, because you carry a lot of things, not just your business, but your family and so many other things. But so this is like this ongoing question that I'm constantly having. You probably are too, especially with the women in cannabis study that just came out. with all of that really important information that we need to be looking at. And a statistic that that I heard about the survey is that somewhere between like 70 and 80% of the folks who have downloaded the survey are women. So we need to get more men looking at the survey and looking at that data. You know.
Agreed.
So yeah.
And allyship is how we're going to get there, right? You know, it's great that we can all sidebar, you know, and have a conversation together and rack our brains to figure out, okay, how do we do this? But really, it's going to take the gatekeepers or the people who already have seats at the table, you know, making way and bringing more chairs, right? They need to learn how to be allies, and I think part of that is we need to make it okay for the male allies to speak up. And you know, we can get into bigger conversation about toxic masculinity versus benevolent masculinity and things like that, but I do think just having or empowering, you know, the people who are already in the rooms where the decisions are being made, to empower them to have ask the questions. Like, for example, I was working on an advertising campaign, and the director said to me, well, we can't have this speaking part be a girl because we don't want to look like we're trying too hard. But when the male camera operator brought it up of, hey, could this be a girl? Everybody said, that's a great idea.
Oh my gosh, that happens
And
so often. I know
right,
with so many. So I mean, I want everybody to be thinking about this ongoing in this conversation, and there is a lot to talk about from all the different aspects of this space. But I think it's very important for us to all be aware of our place here, and that I know we're all very busy and we're all doing the things in our business to kind of keep doing those things, but there's also a bigger picture here, and we want to stay in touch and in tune with that. And there's a lot of bigger pictures. There's like mental and emotional health for like those who we're caring for in regards to even the work that we're all doing. Like, I think that we all, and I'm just speaking generally for us, that we want the best for the people that we work with and the people that we're in touch with. And how do we weave that in and continue to weave that in into our work, and also support one another in the process. And I think that's an ongoing conversation. I want to shift into let's see. I see Anna's here. I see Jana and Anna. It both rhymes. And Heidi, but we'll maybe start with Anna, and talk about some plant touching issues and things. So Anna, hi,
Hey, how's
welcome.
it going?
Good. How
Thanks.
are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me. It's a
You're
pleasure to be here with
welcome.
all of you.
Yes. So your company Sugar Top Buttery is here in Oregon, based in Eugene, grows and distributes cannabis. I'm curious about what are some of the challenges that you face doing both businesses? Because they connect, but they are two different, things that operate differently. So can you maybe share with us a little bit about Sugar Top and how, you're managing both, growing cannabis as well as distributing it?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to start off, a little background. I founded Sugar Top Buttery with my brother in 2015. We've been cultivating cannabis since the beginning that you could recreationally here in Oregon, as well as launching our line of pre-rolls, which was really the impetus for moving into the distribution side of the industry, as far as building a larger community for us to be able to take incredible product from partners throughout the space as well, and be able to roll that up and share the love across the state. So for us, moving into distribution was always another piece of building that community and being able to showcase the best of what Oregon has to offer. So that sort of two-step process was really how we moved into this role of not only cultivating cannabis, but also representing other brands on our menu. And I'm very proud to say that 70% of the brands on our distribution menu are women owned. And so that's always been a big priority for me as well, to be able to support the community of women here in Oregon and to really be able to share and promote and all of our aligned values in a singular space in a menu. So that's been just my absolute privilege and pleasure to be able to do that, and to also try to help incubate and elevate brands along the way. So that's been the joy of building this over the last few years. But admittedly, there are challenges that pose just in growing and scaling a company that's now moved from what was, first just this emerging place for us to all figure this out from the ground up. And now Oregon really is a mature market, and the new challenges that we're facing, continuing to, survive and thrive in this time.
Thank you for sharing about that. And I know it's been an interesting journey, and you've been doing this for such a long time. You're like business partners with your brother, and holding down the fort down there, and like doing all this crossover work. It's definitely got its challenges, and you make some good weed.
Thank you. Thank you. I think one of the biggest pieces that I could say just about like what it means to continue to be here during this time, to be able to continue to promote the products that we create, we grow, that we also get to share with the community, is really just continuing to push for education, consumer education, and really being able to drive home the value that different brands provide and why that matters. So much when we look at brands, who owns them, how they operate, and just also the quality of the products that we represent and that we also cultivate. A big piece of the market as we continue to see it mature is just a continued emphasis on lower prices and higher potency product. And as we know, there's a lot of value points that make cannabis and cannabis products special. Talking about terpene education, talking about, growing practices, talking about the ethos behind companies. And so I think as women and allies and just everyone in this space really leaning in and digging into continuing consumer education and purchasing products that have quality points that we can really drive home at the retail level, and just through education missions to the consumer, that what we're looking for and why having quality cannabis matters. Because as the industry continues to consolidate, and as we continue to see more and more larger corporate entities come in, seeing these businesses that are started by women that have craft scale and having them continue to exist in the market, it's so important to educate the consumers on why we matter and why us being here and creating these beautiful craft products matter.
Thank you for sharing that. Side note, just a logistical thing. So Leigh and Francesca, you got here first, and I can't actually moderate the room without you giving me moderator access. So can you turn that on for me, please? That would be awesome. And you just click on my picture, and I think it says move. You make a moderator. That would be awesome. Thank you. Okay, great. Now I can remove this person who is harassing in the chat. They've been removed. Okay, great. Thank you. Distracting, unfortunately. The chat has been really helpful. Really, really cool feature here, but also that kind of attracts trolls sometimes. So sorry for anybody who's offended by whatever you're saying. Okay. Thank you so much. I wanted to Joy, I know I see you here, I'd love to bring you up if you're interested in joining this conversation. I'm going to add you here, and if you want to connect, please accept, and I'll bring you into this. Let's talk with AC. I'm glad you're here, AC. Thanks for joining us today. I know that you're in California, and let me know if you can hear me if you're there. I want to just make sure that you're available. I see that you came here. Oh, perfect. I see.
Yeah, what's up, guys? How
Hey,
you doing?
what's
Happy
up?
420. I was just finishing my bowl.
Oh, nice. Well, I'm so glad you're here, and I know that you're an OG grower in California. Um, And again, for everybody, I'm just bopping around with like to try to maximize our time with all of these women. I'm just going to be poking out and putting out questions so that we can talk to as many of them as possible. And of course, you're welcome to connect with them afterwards. Follow them here on Clubhouse, check out their profiles, and follow them on their socials, etc. So you're an OG grower in California. What challenges have you faced as a female grower over the years that you've been involved in the industry? And what, if anything, would you change?
Just as a grower, huh? Let me focus on the grower aspect in thought real quick. All right, that's old because I can't really say that I knew any women before. Like, I literally dealt with no women until about 8 to 10 years ago. So it's really interesting the change that's gone on like perceptively now. I think it's always the same thing that we have to deal with in anything, just being centralized. And, back in the day, I used to have to pay hustlers to like stand in front of me and pretend to be the lead man, try to be the dumb bitch in the back so you don't get jacked or do all this crazy, shit. You have to put on this front that you're like lesser than so that, you stay kind of protected. I don't know. It's a weird thing. And then, of course, having to deal with when people find out that you are just a woman, the opportunity to take you on is either the fuck or fight or rip you off kind of vibe. So they're like, hey, which one can I do? Like, if I can't fuck you, can I fight you? Oh, wait, can I overthrow you in some way? There's always like these three Janars. And then when you actually are working in the boys club, which I've been doing for a long time, have been working in the hustle of the male Jannar, it's even harder because then you have good friends that are males and they're women, end up forcing them to force other women out because they're jealous, insecure, whatever. So, in all ways, there seems to be lots of different, I don't know, levels of curation that could be done better with just like some social empowerment and some education on emotional education, I guess, on how we can all interact in such a like healthier, more vibrant way, and like really not feeling so in this day and age of finding the new women kind of empowerment movement, which is great to see everybody like coming into the era and like getting to be parts of new communities and building new communities on top of that, but really just keeping that authenticity there and really like kind of not fearing other people so much as like I like at first I was intimidated by working with somebody in like lower East Philly. Like lower you too, Melissa. The lower East Philly or something like, super ghetto or like lower Watts or something, like going in as a white chick, into like full black communities, like everything, like there's just a completely different culture, you at first you have all this premeditated things and for Evertown now I have every color of the rainbow is my homie and we've all hustled or done something in the weed game together. So I think really trying to drop all that premeditated notions of each other or worried about like, hey, is one person gonna outshine another person or anything, just kind of have like more confidence and like we're gonna still find chicks and dudes that screw us over, but if we keep like actually perpetuating the positive, maybe we got a chance to smoke a joint together one day.
I'm sorry you've had so much, so many challenges over the years. And, I understand, especially in the legacy space, hard to know who to trust, kind of sometimes still, you know, pans over to this space and where we're at now in the legal markets and stuff. But I'm really glad that you did whatever you had to do to stay here. And I just want to acknowledge you for your work and, all of your showing up and doing things brave and scared sometimes. I think that's what we all have to do in order to do some of the things that we do on the daily. And just want to thank you for continuing your work in the cannabis industry.
Thanks, I appreciate it. And I really appreciate all the women that are having the, the balls and the forthright to like join me in this whole thing. Like if you're just in it for money or if you're in it for being an advocate or whatever your level, I appreciate that there's some expansion to this and still some collective community. Because at this point in the game, it is really hard to even get paid with contracts. It's really hard to just operate as a female, as a male, as anything. So we're gonna have a lot more power if we come together and like keep supporting each other. So thanks a bunch.
Yeah, 100%. I want to bring Joy here, and she is going to be speaking actually at our Flower Power Tokeativity Social about social enterprises, and I'm really excited. Maybe you can kind of give us a little window in here, and also just want to shout out Nimble Distribution and Kites as one of our newest brand partners. We're so excited to work with you and to learn together and to be doing this work together. And just thank you so much for showing up in this space and for doing what you do.
Uh, Thank you so much. I didn't even plan on, I just wanted to hear all of these great businesses. I'm a big fan of several women on here. So, but thank you for calling me up.
Yeah.
Uh,
100%. Yeah. Share with us a little bit about like what is a social enterprise, and I know you're going to talk way more about it at our social, but I think this language of social enterprise is really important to start using in our
yeah,
community.
absolutely. They're definitely on the rise. Social enterprise, by definition, is a mission driven or a business, but with a business structure. So we are a wholesale distribution company and a manufacturer of both brands and other people's pre-rolls. But we have a very strong mission-based company. So we are a second chance employer, and we look to seek out and hire people who have done time for the war on drugs. And then the products that we create, every brand we create in-house at Nimble, within our cost of goods schedule, we build reparations into that. Kites, for example, our premier brand, 50 cents of every pack goes to New Project here locally in Oregon. And so far, we've sold, oh gosh, well over 25,000 packs and have given almost $13,000 to New Project. And that is being infused directly back into the community to Black and brown businesses in the cannabis space. And they're even venturing to outside of the cannabis space. But they're excellent stewards of that money. And we are just thrilled for that partnership. And so we're building future brands as well, and those will go to address other issues. But I guess being a social enterprise kind of comes down to like who are we going to be on the inside? Who are we going to be as employers? We had to kind of start there, because a lot of times as companies we start immediately figuring out how we're going to survive and who we're going to do business with outside of us, but we maybe skip a step and like who are we going to be to everybody who shows up here every day. And so we spent a lot of time crafting both our environment and our benefits package, and our starting wage. We have a starting wage of $17 an hour, and we're always looking for ways we can increase that. And so increasing the bottom is really important to us to close that pay gap. We're also an employee-owned company, and all of our employees accrue options in the company at the same level. Nobody accrues at a greater level than the other. It's for your time in the company. And so there's a lot of ways you craft from the inside. And we have employee paid lunches. So we have a fully stocked, company cafe, and we're always taking feedback from our employees on what they'd like to see more of around the office that would just make it a better environment, whether it's more music, less music, what do they want to listen to? What do they want to see in their environment? And so who we are internally matters just so much to us. And then from there, the impact we make in the community is well defined, and we have a path to achieve the things that we're, setting out to do with our brands. And so new project is the first one. The next one, as you know, at Tokeativity will be working with us on our launch of broomsticks, and that will be launching in May. And that's a premium pre-roll brand as well. And so, anyway, we really love being in this space, and thanks for having me. I don't really know what else.
Yeah.
I don't want to do my whole chat for 420.
Yeah, no, save it, save it. Like, I know that I just wanted to like bring you up here. I noticed that you were here. I wasn't sure if you could come or not, and I'm just so glad that you are. And like, I just want to say that in the chat, there's definitely Valerie says I have a business crush on Nimble, and I was like, me too.
Oh
um,
my gosh, thank you.
yeah, like what you're doing is really inspiring. It feels like just like um, so in the direction that we want to be going on in general, and like the cannabis community and the people that we work with. And so we're so excited to work with you on everything that's going on kites. I didn't say anything about broomsticks, you did, so
I did. We're finally starting to talk about it. I mean,
okay.
we'll be close to launch here soon. But yeah, we're excited to start talking about it.
Yeah, and for those of you who know us from our like witchy woman Tokeativity socials, this is definitely going to be really fun to bring into October later this year, and so we're so stoked. Thanks, Joy, for joining us, and make sure to catch her talk at our Flower Power social on next Wednesday.
Yes, it'll be far more planned.
Yeah, no, thanks for like jumping on and talking on the fly.
No.
Yeah, so I want to talk to one other grower here, and then we're going to jump to some dispensary life, and then we're going to talk to some cannabis educators. We're also weaving in some CBD company folks in here as well. So let's so Jana, I'm curious. I I know that you're in Oklahoma. Can you just give us a little bit of the rundown about what's legal down there for those of us who don't know?
Well, sure. Hello, hello. In Oklahoma, it's a medical state. So, is that what you mean by what's legal?
Okay, well, you know what's funny is that like I just hear like Oklahoma is like this really wild place, and I have no idea why, except for what people tell me, because we haven't been down there yet to like hang out and really get the lay of the land. So we're
Mhm.
just hearing from women in the community about what's going on in
Okay.
Oklahoma. Okay, it's medical, but what else? What is going on?
Yeah, it is a really wild place because, I appreciated so much how they put there's a 2-year residency requirement to have licenses here. I think that that's safe and respectable for your, communities in state when opening a program. And There's no limit though. So that was really interesting. Like you don't have a canopy size limit. And that is really interesting. You can grow lots and lots and lots of plants. Unfortunately, that is not very sustainable, right? It's really hard to grow at scale. So really brings that level of like failure for the farmers up. People trying to tackle giant grows because there isn't that limit. So,
Wow, I
but
can't believe it's like unlimited like that. That's crazy. That is crazy.
it is really incredible. And I must say that after having cultivation experience in Oregon and being in that really regulated market where every square inch of your facility is under a recorded camera and the lot of it. There's none of that yet here either, but it's coming, and metric is going to be required here at the end of May, and then very interesting to see this market progress. And it is a beautiful, beautiful state. I happen to live in a place that I was able to tell like my Oregonian friends, it's very green and beautiful, lots of trees and rolling hills and creeks and ponds and lakes. And
We love those things.
yeah, right. But then there's like, you go like 2 hours away from here and it's like totally desert. Like, yeah, 10, you're looking out over, 40 acres, but there's not a stick of nothing on it. And then there's some red rocks, and then there's some really big, beautiful lakes and rivers and streams here. And it is gorgeous. It's a really diverse place, very much like Oregon, very diverse terrain. And then the cannabis seems to be absolutely like cultivated in all corners and parts of the state, just speaking of growing. And so then you have this really diverse, like new grower population trying to figure it all out. And you know how it is if you even are talking to one another and collaborating, having that time to or intention to, you are really talking about very different growing situations mostly, right? Even with your indoor, because controlling that is about your outdoor environment too. So it's been wonderful to experience. Thank you.
How cool that
Hope
you've
that's
like
helpful.
had the Oregon experience. Now you're down to Oklahoma, bringing your Oregon education and connections and knowledge and wisdom into that space. And I think in general, like that's what we want to support as Tokeativity, like women knowing, like taking their skills and putting it somewhere else. We're never going to
Mhm.
always be the same in the same place doing the same thing in the same moments. And I know a lot of women have been at different jobs and had different roles and different businesses and stuff. However, the thing that keeps us threaded together is knowing one another, and also knowing that we can
Mhm.
take our skills into other places.
For sure. And it's been definitely a focus to always like work with women and empower women and connect with women and collaborate with women, and also to elevate the plant. So that has been like the real common thread since back before Oregon to Northern California, just really pushing that plant loving, plant honoring, and a plant forward focus in all aspects of cultivation, especially when it comes to making the business a business, right? Because it's hard to lose sight of those things. So always trying to invite and encourage, even proving it on the bottom line, to show that
May I
craft,
ask you
show
what
that
what part of
works.
Oklahoma you're in, ma'am? I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just
Oh,
wanted to
I
know
don't.
during your story what part of Oklahoma you're in. I was just
Okay.
doing consulting there, and I was curious your location.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I am in Okemah, which is right. It's about an hour away from Oklahoma City and an hour away from Tulsa on I
Brilliant.
40,
Thank
kind
you.
of in the. Yes. Thank you, guys. Thanks for letting me chat and with you and share.
Yes, thank you. I love that you enthusiastically wrote me back and you're like, yes, you're always up for a conversation here on Clubhouse, so thank you.
Well, activity. Oh, it's the best, best, best.
I
Love the
know.
collaboration. You're so wonderful.
You're wonderful too. We cannot wait to get back out there. We're going to be going on tour, y'all. We don't have set dates. We don't have set locations. However, we're definitely taking notes right now. We want to meet women on the ground. We want to connect with businesses. We want to meet the women who are pioneering the spaces that they're in, um, and we are very excited to be planning that out sometime this year. That's sort of keeping it open. But Oklahoma's on our to-do list, so stay tuned.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
Yay. Okay, so we heard from some growers, we heard from some plant touching folks. I want to talk to Valerie here because this is really interesting little crisscross. Valerie is the co-founder of Barbary, and Barbary started as an herbal blend, and they do have an herbal blend still, but they've also crossed over into the THC market, which is really cool. And so, what's really awesome also for those of you who don't know, Valerie and her business partner and our friend Meryl, we were all together in the initiative, which was the first business accelerator program for women founders in cannabis. This was back in 2019. And we learned so much together. And so So you've actually also helped to create a whole new category of cannabis that crosses herbals and THC, which, is really incredible. So many questions for you, but the one I kind of came up with was, um, you know, when you crossed over into creating a new category, like, was that hard to do? And how has creating a new category um, in the cannabis space changed the trajectory of your business?
Mm. You know, I hadn't even thought about it in terms of creating a new category until you said that, but you're right. I mean, we really did have to fight an uphill battle. So I'll dig into that. But thank you so much for including me here, and it's been wonderful to listen to everybody else kind of talk about their challenges and their wins in the industry on this session. Um, so in 2017, we launched in Oregon. And at that point, we were building our business and really trying to bring our first product to market, which was THC herbal spliff focused on a low dose pre roll, so that somebody could enjoy cannabis a little bit more like they would a glass of wine or even a bottle of wine. If they want a second glass, they go in and pour more. And so we wanted the cannabis experience to be like that. And the herbal spliff is the product we were envisioning for this. But in Oregon, it was a new recreational market at that point, and we, started to read all the bylaws and the rules and regulations of the OLCC market. At that point, there wasn't an herbal spliff conceptualized. So there were terms like adulterated, and, you can't incorporate tobacco with cannabis. And that was about as explicit as it went in terms of mixing other ingredients in with a smokable if you aren't trying to pursue that higher potency infused pre-roll approach, which we were not doing. So in Oregon, I would say, harassed the OLCC folks, and that stands for Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission. And so we, sent emails, we made phone calls, we showed up at industry events that we knew they were going to be at and talked to them at the booth. And it took us about a year and a half to make any kind of meaningful progress with them in terms of defining further the language that was, in our mind, too ambiguous for us to invest too much time and money. At that point, we were financing our business ourselves. So we were being very cautious about how far we went with this product development without knowing explicitly that we would be allowed to sell our product on the market. Once we sort of navigated that and got approval from them, there were other challenges along the way. And we were faced with, for example, testing challenges where our product, even though it's now defined to some capacity within the products that can be sold in Oregon, they didn't really know how to test our product. And so we were being lumped in categorically with high potency infused pre-rolls. And because of that, they would take our pre-roll, which the form factor is just like a normal joint, except for inside the joint you have botanicals like raspberry leaf, peppermint, sage, lavender, etc. That's mixed with whole flower hemp or cannabis in this case, and then it's sold. But because we're categorically an infused pre-roll, they're assuming that we also infuse the crutch or the paper. And so they don't test us like they would a normal joint, which is, produces a percentage potency based on the net weight. And that's what you would put on the label. They actually take our product and they grind it all down, including the paper and the crutch, and they incorporate that into the potency calculation, which really, really skews what the consumer is expecting they're taking, because it makes it seem even less potent than it actually is. In our case, we're a low dose product, so it's not the end of the world. But if we were a higher dose product, it could be, really misleading. And so we had to start fighting that battle. And we still haven't won that. That's in Oregon. But we have our product also in Massachusetts, and we're working on rolling it out into other states. And every state tests product differently. And so, now that the concept of an herbal spliff is generally accepted, and there's other brands that are starting to produce products like this, we just have to make sure that there's close attention to detail in every state that we're operating in terms of the actual categorical language that we fit into, as well as the testing methods, and then the requirements of testing in each state is also different. So some states are a lot more strict on pesticides and microbiomes and heavy metals versus other states. So every state that we grow into is almost starting at square one, but at least we've built up a bit of a system. So now we kind of know what questions to ask ahead of time before we get too deep.
Damn, thank you for pioneering, for being a pioneer in that space and for showing up at all those meetings for a year and a half. And persistence pays off, y'all. Like, showing up pays off, and it's not always easy. And I think some folks think that, because cannabis is fun to consume, that it's also like really fun and easy to like be on the business side of things. And it's tough out there. This is why we do things like this, and this is why we stay connected to one another and support one another's work and businesses and share about it. But I think what you've done is really incredible. Like, you took an idea that you had about how to like low dose cannabis by adding on things that you would like to consume, like raspberry leaf and the other products that you have in your products, and adding on cannabis if you want to on your own, or you as the producer of these things, making that decision for folks and creating that experience for them. I think it's really cool, super admiring. I admire you so much. It's super inspiring. and I can't wait to I actually have yet to try one of your crossover products of the THC with the herbal, so I look forward to trying one of those.
Yeah, well, quick plug to Sugar Top Buttery. They are our production partner in Oregon, and we're thrilled to be working with them. So if you love Sugar Top's flower and you like our brand concept, then the THC herbal spliff in Oregon is a great option for you.
Oh gosh, I didn't even know that. That's
you can
so
support
awesome.
two of us.
Yes, support women owned, and we can't do that unless we know who owns it.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Thanks for sharing, and shout out to Barbary. And I did, and also congratulations on everything you're doing, but Urban Outfitters. Y'all got into Urban Outfitters. That's huge.
Yeah. So that's for our non-pre-roll line, just the botanical blends that are formulated so people can mix them with their own preferred strain or ratio of cannabis. And we are the only combustible product at Urban Outfitters right now. We're online only. Yeah. Very exciting.
That is so cool. Valerie, Meryl, you all are so cool.
Thank you.
I just want to let everybody know I am going to be extending this time here because I would like to get a chance to talk to everybody. But if you have to go and you have a hard stop at 5 or Pacific, please feel free to do what you got to do. But I had so many questions and like so many curiosities about the women that I was connecting with about like women in weed and the power of the flower, and that like the whole thing centers around the flower. So I'd love to talk to Heidi, who is also one of our Canna sisters here in Oregon and is the co-founder and CEO of Moss Crossing. It's a dispensary in Eugene, Oregon. And I had a question beforehand, but something else that kind of came up for me as we're having this conversation is, as a dispensary owner, what do you take into account when you're trying to make a decision about what products to add to your shelf?
Hi, Lisa. That's a really good question. Thank you so much for asking that, and thank you for inviting me. This has been so great and so informative already.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, Moss Crossing, we're an anomaly, like right out the gate. You know, we are catering to like the new cannabis consumer more so than I think some other dispensaries. I was trying to build something that my mom and my grandma would like to come to, and I think I've accomplished that. So hooray! Um, but it's always been really important to us from the beginning to have like that quality curation to offer our clientele. And so we do pay attention. Like if you go to our vendor intake form, you're going to answer all kinds of questions about like your growing practices, your ethos as a company. And then we do like to try to support, you know, as many woman-owned brands as we can, as well as like other minority-owned brands. It's definitely part of our mission to be as inclusive as possible in a dispensary. So, you know, always, we do look at quality because we want to make sure that what we're offering to our customer is going to be good, awesome quality and they can trust us in that, but also like making sure we expose them to these brands and also letting the customer know why. You know, like in February, we will feature any and all Black owned brands that we have. And in March, we like feature all the women owned brands to make sure that like, hey, we're really going to drive this home. And then also, these are available year round, and we'll continue to remind you that these are the reasons that you should be supporting these super awesome local brands. So that definitely comes into our consideration when we're stocking our shelves.
Quality is super important. I'm curious about how you decide if something is quality or not, like where the line is. And I also wanted to comment on like I have been in Moss Crossing in Eugene, and it is definitely somewhere where you would take your mom and your grandma, and that's what we're all trying to do here, right? Is like to normalize cannabis and to like make it welcome for everybody. And appreciate that you're doing that there at Moss. So so in regards to quality, what is quality? How do you measure that?
Well, I mean, I think that there's not any one standard to apply to everything. You know, we've got gummies, we've got smokables, all of the things. But generally speaking, like nothing will land on our shelves until somebody on our staff has tried it and been like, this is awesome. These are the reasons that I think it's awesome. These are the reasons that I think it would be good on our shelves. So we do like our internal quality control. Um, and you know, we do ask about growing practices, and we do want to make sure that like the inputs that are going into some of these things are like not the worst possible. You know what I mean? Like there are some products out there that are just made with like the cheapest possible ingredients. There's no thought put into, you know, where the cartridge is coming from, if there's metals leaking into the cartridges. But you can tell just by talking to the owner or like a good representative of the brand if that brand is actually putting thought into those things. So that is something that we really do pay attention to is like, okay, who's behind this brand and like do they care about the safety and the experience of the consumer?
Appreciate that. We need more people like yourself like caring about that, and I think that good dispensary owners obviously care about quality, maybe not so obviously. Well, we want them to care about quality. We hope that they care about quality as consumers. You know, we're trusting them to go into the stores and to like talk to the bud tenders and get opinions about things. And like you said, it's like, you know, having the people that work for you try the products and vouch for them, because you can't speak about something that you've never tried, right?
Right.
And
And like,
grow
do
your
you
own,
like
grow your own, grow your own.
Of course, that's always an option in the states that do allow it. And you know, you can have more control over what it is you are growing if you do know how to grow. I always think about growing, but I have it feels like So maybe it's easy, but I'm just like becoming a plant lady from like pandemic times, like where I'm like, okay, I watered that plant enough and it's alive still. So like,
You can do it. You can do it, Lisa. I believe in you.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, thanks Heidi for chiming in here and for sharing about your perspective about, you know, from a dispensary owner perspective about what kind of products you look for and what quality really means. um I think this is a good bridge to talk with Jay, who's down in Texas, who has a dispensary, even though THC is not legal. So, hi and welcome. And I'm glad you're here. Thanks for
Thank
joining.
thank you for having me. And it's been so amazing listening to all these amazing women. And it's pretty awesome because I do at my dispensary carry Miss Valerie's product. So it's awesome to be on the same panel here and just listen to you and listen to your story and everything that you had to go through.
I'm so loving the crossover. For those of you who are not looking in the chat, there's like so much crossover happening and connections and whatnot, and that's so awesome that that we're all here and that we're all from different walks of life, but we're all here to support one another. So
So
um
true.
we're gonna get to the bud tenders and the educators in just a few, but first let's hear from you. Can you just tell us about Shop Mary J and like
Yes.
I know that you use the words, you know, dispensary in Texas, but like, what does that mean? Like, I actually, we were just a little side note. We were connecting with this journalist from Condé Nast who came to us and so appreciative of like who's doing what and like who should we know about and what women-owned businesses across the country are doing amazing things. And we definitely mentioned you down there, and then they were like, hold on, wait,
Thank
what
you.
three? So can you give us the skinny on what's happening there?
Yes, you guys, it is literally what you're thinking, dispensary. Like we opened up, we're celebrating 5 years in October in the heart of Texas. We're in Austin. Um, So we had an idea of opening a dispensary, but not like what you're thinking because we're very limited here, right? I wanted to cross the lifestyle, so like the smoke shop that I grew up with and going to, but make it more women friendly so people could actually come in and shop and bring their friends and their mother and their grandmother, like you say, but then also bring in quality cannabis products. And what that took, my partner and I sold our house and we traveled for a year, quit our jobs, and really went to these companies and wanted to hear their stories, connect with them. And the same thing like Heidi, like the quality control, we tried every single product. You know, we went over lab results. If we didn't understand something, we'd ask them, can you explain it to us? It was a lot of like educating ourselves before we put those products on our shelves. So when we opened up, we were mostly lifestyle with one little case of CBD. And that was in 2017. And then, you know, a year forward, most of our store was CBD and more less lifestyle. So we kind of go with the flow of what the customer was asking for. But when people walk in, they're like, "Oh shit, is weed legal here in your dispensary?" And I'm like, "No, it's not legal in Texas. This is what's going on." They're like, "Well, how come it looks like this? Like you have weed on the wall." I'm like, "Yes, this is the flower wall. You can come up, touch it, smell it, see it. These are terpenes, and this is what they do." And they're like, "What?" So when people come from legal states, they like, I feel so much at home. And we have many, many, many people moving from California here. So when they come in, they're like, oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I thought I was going to be without. I mean, if this is the closest I can get, I'll take it. Like, this is, I know these brands, Papa and Barkley, Wild, Smokies. Wow. Okay. What's going on in here? And so, you know, we hired a design team, a fabricator. We went all the way out if we were going to come right. And so Mary J was born, and that's who we are. We're two women of color. We're a queer couple, like I said, in the heart of Texas, and we're still here through COVID and kicking ass. Honestly, like I said, we're about to celebrate 5 years and celebrate 420 next week, which I cannot wait for.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Happy 420, y'all. We're getting ready. I hope you feel the energy building about, you know, in all your communities, wherever you are. And we're getting very, very excited, Tokeativity. How cool that you have like built this out in, you know, and how interesting to start from like lifestyle to then shift into selling like CBD flower, um,
Right.
Delta 8 flower, and
Yep.
Delta 8 products, which I know is
Yep.
like empty and, could go away at any time. Hopefully it's here to stay.
Right.
But
Oh, we've dealt with that many times. Trust me. They've taken it away from us once and everybody was coming in, but other smoke shops have it. I said, well, those other smoke shops aren't women of color. And we will be the ones they make example of. And for your safety and ours, we've pulled it from our shelves until the law is figured out. And it'll be back. And once it is, we'll go from there. And if not, we go on to something else. It's not the end of the world. This plant has so much to offer. So we go with the flow. Like I said, we're one of the first here in Texas to do this. And so we've been through it all and we are not afraid of change and challenge. It actually drives us.
yes.
Yes.
I'm feeling that so hard because you do have to be brave in this space and like continue to pivot and to adjust yourself and to like go with the flow. You said that a couple of times, and
Yes.
where is the flow going? We're going that way. And sometimes you
Exactly.
do have to go upstream sometimes. Sometimes you actually can't go with the flow because it's actually not where you want to go.
Right. It's so true. I mean, it's especially being in Texas with the laws, they change so fast and anything can happen any point. And so you really have to learn to go with the flow, like I said, and just pivot. You really have to. I mean, but this is what the space is all about anyways. We have to pivot. There's laws changing all the time, packaging requirements, grow requirements, like there's something all the time. So it's nothing, like I said, we're afraid of, and we love the challenge, and I love this industry.
And we love you
Mhm.
being in this industry. So appreciate
Yes.
like all of your hard work and spirit and connection. And I know that like for those of you who don't know, Jay was on one of our previous Tokeativity socials as a guest speaker. We had a really beautiful conversation about the story of like her dad and the connection that they had and the inspiration around the shop. So I encourage everybody to check out our YouTube. Just Google Tokeativity YouTube and you'll find it. Subscribe to our YouTube. We come out with every month. Some of the stuff that we've recorded from our previous events is available. There are some things that are not recorded that you have to be there in the moment. So it's a really fun mix of things. And so, check that out from Jay and definitely check out
Thank
her
you.
store.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
100%. I think this is a really good bridge to talking with a few bud tenders here. And I want to talk with Diana, and thank you so much for hanging out. I know it's been a while, since we're finally getting down to the bud tender conversation here. But you are a dispensary manager, and I have watched some of your social media um, on some of the stuff that happens behind the scenes, which I'm so appreciative. Like, thank you for sharing. It's fucking crazy sometimes out there, but and you're like Tokeativity OG. Like, you came to Tokeativity like in the very beginning. You brought your dab rig and you like would set it up and all this stuff. And I'm just like, I love knowing you and seeing you still do your thing out here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you guys for inviting me. This is so cool to be part of this conversation, and I wish I would have participated sooner. But yeah, I'm loving. I took a tiny hiatus from the industry, cannabis industry, and I came back recently, and I've just been enjoying it, and I'm just rocking it. I feel, yeah, I'm at a downtown location where it's fast paced, high volume, and yes, we are surrounded by all walks of life. So to me, it's very important to keep the morale up here because our customers challenge us as it is. So yeah, each day, and that's why I've decided to share some of my camera footage, because this is the reality of what my bud tenders, my key holders, my staff have to deal with, and myself each day. There's great things about the cannabis industry, but there's also some hardships too, and I think it's important to share what we go through day to day, and depending the area you're in, what the type of people, customers you have to deal with. So I just think it's really important to keep their morale up, to make sure that their safety is a priority. They all know me here. I'm like the mama bear. So I protect my staff like crazy, as much as I can. And yeah, I've been a part of Tokeativity. I think I missed the very, very first one, but after that, I've been a part of it. Yeah, I remember the first social. There was nobody was dabbing, and I just got brave and busted it out.
You
And
were totally
yeah,
queen. It was so like we were all like, oh my god, like it's been so interesting. Like when we were doing consumption events to see who brought what, because it was like bring your own stuff, and you had
yep,
this whole thing. You had like not like a suitcase, but kind of.
yeah, my backpack.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just rolled with my dab rig, my dabs, my torch, and I just loved, I love educating people on cannabis. I love educating them on how to smoke and what to do with it and how it goes. And I just was loving all these women coming up to me and like, what is that? Can I try that? I've never tried that. And just seeing the effects of them having their, first hit with the dab rig was really cool experience. So I was really excited to bring that on to Tokeativity.
Yeah, I know you definitely helped women have like their first dab experience in like a safe space, like it was like
Yeah.
instead of going to like stoner bro party not knowing anybody and doing something for the first time, like that's one of the things I definitely miss sometimes about our consumption events that we had
Yeah.
pre-pandemic was like the interesting moments where women were like trying something for the first time and being in the space where they were supported.
Yep, absolutely. And so yeah, I just appreciate all of the experiences that I've gotten to go through, and I love that I'm back in the industry, and I feel like I'm just dominating it right now. I do have a young male boss, and this is his company, but he very much allows me to run it the way I would like to and as if it was mine. So I
Love that.
really appreciate that about him, and he has really let me change this company, and it's gone a really long way. And actually, we have 2 stores right now, and both the general managers are women, so that's really exciting.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, we just plan to expand, and yeah, I just plan to expand my team and just have them grow, because I don't want them, whether they stay with the company or continue out in the world, I want them to have those skills, So that's my goal, is for this to be a stepping stone for them.
Which dispensary do you work at?
I'm at the Broadway Cannabis Market in downtown Portland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so you said something about morale, keeping morale up. So you're helping to keep morale up for your staff. How do you keep morale up for yourself, having to deal and handle a staff and then all the crazy stuff that happens in that area of town?
That's actually a really good question, because it's such a small company. I do have an HR person who, is tied in different ways. So I try to lean on that person when I can, to get some support. I talk a lot with the other general manager. My staff is really great to lean on as well, because we all go through the muck together, so they're the ones that are knowing what I'm going through, and they're great at checking in on their supervisor as well, not just me to them. So I really love that about my team. I couldn't be blessed with a better team, honestly. But yeah, I just feel that like my boss, he's really wonderful. I can tell him anything. The way I talk to my friends, the way I talk to people, swear words and all, that's how I talk to my boss. I give him the what for when I need to. I, tell him all my emotions I'm going through, the stresses and the goods and the bads, and he listens to me. And so I really appreciate that he makes that space for me so that I'm able to take care of myself. He gives me the time that I need off. He really just allows me to run my own schedule and just run basically my own way, so that my mental health is solid for my staff and the store.
That's incredible. Way to
Yeah.
go with like having the kind of relationship where you can be yourself, you can share what you need to with your boss. That's so important to have a good relationship as you're managing the people of the dispensary you work in, and also like the people that come into the dispensary. It's all like an organic thing that you're managing.
It is. And and with the challenges that we have, particularly in our area, I just remind my staff to continue using education, not just cannabis part, but educating them like, hey, if they come in with a child, just educate them like, hey, we can't have children in here. Come back in like a half hour. If they're purchasing for someone else, sometimes they'll bring in that person's ID. We let them know like, oh, we can't, it's not that we can't serve you. Just, hey, it's okay that you're purchasing for someone else. Just show us your own ID. So it's just a little bit of of educating so that we don't have that, barrier of like, okay, I didn't know. So we just help the customers know, like, hey, don't bring outside alcohol or, weed. So just let us know what it is you're looking for, and that way we can help you out. So just a lot of conversation and education is the biggest thing that I teach my staff here.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need educated folks standing out there who are connecting with us as consumers, and
Yes.
and the people who are or trying stuff on for the first time. I think that's like actually a really great bridge to connecting with Soleil, and then I want to hear from our other educators, Erica and Takesha. And thank you so much for hanging out all this time. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
Diana for
Thank you
your
guys.
thank you so much. I hope to
Thank
see
you.
you in person
Yes.
sometime, and also at our Tokeativity social next week.
Absolutely. I would love to. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for
Bye.
your insight there.
Thank you.
I love getting a window into everybody's worlds here, and that's what we're doing right now, right? We're like we've had all these different women from different walks of cannabis life, and we're all kind of doing our thing, and it's so important to really understand the different layers here of women in the cannabis space. And so, Soleil, thank you so much for hanging out. Nice to see you here, and thank you for joining us.